Community Hotline, presented by 88 Real Estate Media, for the community, by the community. I am your host, Bob Fang, and today we have a very special guest. He protects us in the city of Los Angeles. He is a very dear friend of mine from high school, Mr. Cyrus. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Yeah, like Bob said, my name is Cyrus. I went to high school with Bob at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas in South Florida a while ago now, shockingly. But currently, I'm a lawyer at the Los Angeles Superior Court. I live in Los Angeles. Bob also lives in the Southern California area, and so it's been nice to stay connected with one another.
Okay, nice. Let me explain the rules real quick. There is no cursing on this show. If you do curse, you will get a first strike, second strike, and a third strike, and you will automatically be kicked out. Today's topics are going to be money and education. Tell me, what is money? Why don't they teach it in school? How do you make money? What's going on?
Yeah, so I mean, money is an interesting thing. I think it can be defined in a lot of ways, just depending on who you're talking to. But I just really see it as like a human invention that was created, like a medium that was created by which we can get the things that we need, basically. Like back in the day, it used to be bartering system. Once we finally had agriculture, it was a bartering system. Like maybe I was the cabbage guy, and maybe Bob had livestock, and I needed, I needed beef, he needed cabbage, so we would do a trade, right? Well, that was fine back then, but now bartering is just not efficient. We need some medium, some universal medium that everybody can use to obtain the things they want, basically. So I can, convert my cabbages to something that's universal that I can use to get the things I want. That's basically money in a nutshell for me.
Got it. Using it for things that you want. What
Yes.
what
or need.
or need, yeah. What is it I guess, do you have a personal experience of when your attitude towards money changed?
Yeah. Well, well, when I was like, for example, going through undergrad and law school, I was either getting support from my parents or I was doing student loans. And both of them, well, obviously, having your parents support you was the best thing. That happened during undergrad for me, and to a certain extent, I took it for granted. Then I took on student loans after that for law school. And still, it didn't feel bad or anything like that. Money was just kind of coming in. Of course, afterwards, you feel the weight of loans. But there was just kind of an attitude of money comes in, not a big issue for a while. And it wasn't really until I graduated from law school that my attitudes changed about money. I graduated from law school. I didn't have a job lined up. Not everybody does. Only a certain fraction of people do. Some of it is luck based, some of it is not. And before you can even, get right out the gates and start trying to find a job, you got to you should study for the bar exam. And the bar exam is a 10-week regiment. You got to basically treat it like a full-time job. You can't really do a job while you're studying for it. It's 40 hours a week for the first 4-5 weeks, and then it increases steadily to, by the end of it, I was doing 70 hours. By the very end of it, or maybe 60, 65. Basically, my point is for, 2.5, 3 months after law school, I was focused on that. So I couldn't, be worried about income. Right. And after that, it was jumping into finding a job. And, I thought in my mind, maybe it could be quick. But, well, turns out when you're not, going for an absolute basic job, or even if you are, it can take a really long time to find a position. And so I went a good 3 months after that, after finishing the bar exam, to to a job search. It was a 3 month job search, and then I thought I found a good position with a small law firm, but it was not a good position. I was promised certain things. I didn't get any of those things. Um, I'll spare the details, but it was not a good situation. It
Lied
turned
to me.
out I was basically making minimum wage as a licensed attorney for about 2.5 months, maybe 3 months, 3 months with them. So chalk it up to basically 6 months after the bar exam. If you add on the bar exam, you got 9 months of basically not getting the income you need. So during these times, I was taking on debt with credit card debt. So that was adding on to my student loans. And so then I get into my job now, which is as a research attorney for the Los Angeles Superior Court. Well, first I was a law clerk. Now I'm a research attorney. I finally got a decent wage. And then I started, the task of unwinding debt, basically. I saw how difficult that was, when you're living in Los Angeles. And basically by that point, by the time I was, I don't know, maybe a year through working at the court, my whole viewpoint on money had totally changed. It went from being something that I took for granted to realizing how precious it was and how easy it can go and how everybody wants it from you. And so, yeah, my attitude's just changed a lot about it. It's not something to be taken for granted. Unfortunately, it's precious. Unfortunately, it's a motivator for a lot of things. But yeah, suffice it to say, it can't be taken for granted.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know you were hustling like that for 9 months. Kind of you felt the heat, right?
I felt the heat. I felt the heat.
What did
It's
your
tough.
what did your parents say? Did you tell them?
Uh, oh yeah, I mean they knew all about it. I mean, I think they always just believed that I would find the right job, which I did. I think they felt bad for me that I was going through what I was going through. But I think they just understood that at some point things would work out, which they did. Just took some time.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, okay. So basically now you kind of, now you're getting settled in, right? You're in your 30s and you're starting to pay off your debt, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what would you say like would you say like your education has like contributed to like how successful you are in life? Like a formal education, how important is it?
I think my formal education has been pretty critical. Are you talking about after high school or just altogether all
I guess
formal education?
yeah, let's I guess just chopping it down to after high school. Like, what would you say to the kids who are in high school right now, who
People
are
who are in high school.
yeah, to people who are in high school right now who are about to graduate, and like they kind of I don't know, they're either stressed about going to college or they're not going to college or they think high school is a joke and they're like, I don't know why I'm learning statistics. How is this going to help me in life? Like what are your thoughts on that? Or I guess what would you say to yourself if you could go back in time? I guess that's probably the most simplest one.
Okay. So the last part was what would I do differently if I went back in time? Is that what
Yeah,
you said, or?
yeah. Like if you saw yourself in high school of each of the 4 years, let's break it down to each of the 4 years, right? Freshman, sophomore, junior, senior. You go back in time and you're allowed to say one thing, like change one thing. I guess in those 4 years, what would you change?
Well, that's a little difficult. I don't know if I have something every year I would have necessarily changed. Let me, off the top of my mind, it's hard to say. Um, hmm,
Or even like I guess just thinking about it a little bit more now. Think of it
how
like
would I have just generally how would I have done things differently? I mean, generally how I would have done things differently. I would have probably well, I was kind of in the kind of an extreme situation of taking things just way too seriously. That's probably not most of the viewers or most people in high school. But I would actually say that I was probably taking it a little too seriously. The actual studying part of what I was doing. I mean, it was just tons and tons of APs I was taking. I was studying around the clock. I wasn't spending time really. I mean, I had lots of friends and stuff, but I could have been spending a lot more time building relationships. Um, but I just spent so much time studying. I spent so much, well, it wasn't so much time outside studying, doing like extracurriculars, like the honors clubs and stuff. That wasn't so much time, but it all adds up. I was doing orchestra. That was one thing that I'm really glad I did. Thanks to you, actually, Bob, you got me into orchestra. Um, that was actually great. Was the one thing that kind of like really stepped me away from just hardcore book learning. So for me, I had a taking it too seriously problem, and maybe not becoming personable enough, maybe, or developing my personality enough. But that was just kind of my unique situation, I think.
Yeah.
I think for people who are in high school right now, getting back to your question, I think for people who are in high school right now and they're wondering, well, why am I doing X, Y, Z right now in high school? Well, how does this help me? How does pre-calculus help me in real life? Um, I think that high school and middle school, I mean, it's all really just about giving you perspective and context for things. Like, I don't think the classes you'll take, like say pre-calculus, you're going to be walking down the street and literally use pre-calculus or use it at your job. You may probably never, but it just kind of like build and give shape to people. And I think everybody needs a certain foundational amount of that kind of information. The nice thing about high school is by the time you get to like 11th and 12th grade, they let you pick a lot of the classes you're actually interested in. So you should really just take those classes you're really interested in,
Mm.
and use those classes to, shape that character. Um, I think you also asked about what a student should be thinking about doing after high school, and I think that's really just a very personal question. What I would say is really thinking about what do you want, what kind of life you want. I think there's kind of this expectation that you have to go to college, you have to get a bachelor's. Um, I'm not saying you have to. I think it's probably a good idea in this economy, but it's definitely not necessary. It's not for everybody. You just got to figure out your ultimate goal. Like if you're gonna, if there's a certain trade that you want to get into, then go to a trade school or do whatever experience you need to get into that job. You don't necessarily need a bachelor's degree because a lot of these places, they're going to be expensive. You got to remember tuition. If you go to a private school, it could be $25,000 to $50,000 a year in just tuition, and then you got to add on living expenses, textbooks. I mean, that's living expenses. I mean, generalized expenses. When you add it all up, it's just really, really expensive.
Man,
So it might not be right for everybody.
how do you you imagine you're a kid and and they're like, "Yo, Dad, I want to go to Harvard. I got into Harvard," and you're like, "Damn, you can't just go to like the local college. Like, you want to go to Harvard, and you're
Right. Well, I think for that person, again, it just kind of goes to their values and what they really want to do. Like, I mean, one part of it is again, ultimate goal is something, and that's really hard to say when you're 18 years old. I certainly didn't even really know what I wanted to do until like the end of college, and even then I wanted some more searching time. So it's difficult to say. I mean, one safe route to do would be to just do an applicable, undergraduate degree and just, pivot from there. But before I get into that, back to your question of what do I do if, I get into Harvard, it's super expensive and there's local school. My parents are encouraging me to do a local school. I think it's a tough one. Harvard's a very special place, for example. You could do a lot of things after Harvard. You can place like Harvard, you can get connections to jobs you wouldn't otherwise be able to get. For example, there are only certain schools that can hook you up with an investment banking job. I'm not saying you should do investment banking. I'm just saying, as an example, there are only certain schools from which people are recruited for investment banking. Again, just as an example. And Harvard opens up probably more doors than almost any other university. So if you got into Harvard, there might actually be a pretty good argument that you should just take on student loans, bite the bullet, and just, get an applicable degree like I was talking about before, something you can easily pivot into something else with, especially if you're not going to do grad school, you're thinking about just doing a one and done bachelor and move on with life, then doing something like a Harvard, I think student loans for that would be a good investment. If you're thinking about doing medical school or law school, professional school or something like that, maybe going to Harvard at the beginning is not a good idea, because then you're taking on all those costs, and then you got to go do a really expensive school after that too. And you really don't need Harvard to get into any of those schools. I mean, it helps definitely, but you don't need it. So again, I think it really has to do with your ultimate goal. That's really what I was trying to center in on.
Ultimate goal. How do you figure out an ultimate goal when so many kids these days just want to party and do drugs and get drunk?
That's tough. That's a really tough question. I mean, again, it took me a really long time to figure out what I wanted to do. And everyone goes at their own pace. I mean, some people might not know what they want to do until they're 30. That doesn't mean, be a bum and just don't do anything at all. But it could take a long time until you figure out what you want to do.
Right.
How do you do that? That's tough. It's going to be another personal experience.
Right.
If you're into partying, then, do the party thing until, you get it out of your system, or, along the way to partying, you realize what's next for you. Go ahead and do that. If it's not adversely affecting your life otherwise, I don't see anything wrong with that. I think life experiences outside of being serious are also helpful to figuring out what you really want.
Okay. What are kind of what are like two defining moments in your life then, and how do they impact you?
Two defining moments. Whew. Well, I would say one defining moment was probably when I passed the bar exam. That's a really easy one to go to, because I was just overcome with just like happiness that I had passed that exam. It was just so darn difficult. I almost cursed, Bob. It was just so difficult. I was so stressed out. I didn't think, there was times I definitely think I couldn't do it, and there was times afterwards, every other day I thought I might have failed. So when I passed, it was really encouraging. It really kind of reinforced that I can do many things if I set my mind to it. I think that was definitely a defining moment for me, just because of how difficult that task was.
Passing the bar.
What's that? Passing the bar. Passing the bar. Another defining moment. I think another defining moment was when I finished up with high school. This is kind of on the other end of things, more about failure, I guess. But what that leads to, I was trying to get into Harvard and Yale and all of those schools, basically. That's why I was so serious about studying. Well, it didn't work out. It didn't work out, even though I thought I had the grades, I had the scores, but I didn't get into the schools. That sucked. It was really difficult. On top of that, University of Florida was my backup. That's where I wound up going for undergraduate. When I got into University of Florida, I also applied for like a really prestigious scholarship there for the incoming class. Basically, only like 8 people, the top 8 people get it, basically. Right. And I became a semi-finalist for that. So the top 16 pool, basically. I was interviewing for that, and I thought in my mind, okay, well, maybe I didn't get into Harvard and all those schools, but I can get, I got into UF, and with this scholarship that kind of, UF is really affordable. It's a good school, and with this really prestigious scholarship, it's, at least approximately equal, maybe, to going to something more expensive and different. I thought it would be that fair. Well, I didn't get that scholarship either. I got a runner-up scholarship, which was just kind of like a here you go, a little something. But I didn't get the really prestigious one. I didn't get into my schools that I really wanted to get into, and that sucked. It was like total failure. And I think that was a defining moment in that it kind of just set me to the path of like figuring out what you do after like a total failure. Because you have to understand that was like a 4 or 5 year investment for me, you know, of just going as hard as I could. I was just going as hard as you could, 4 to 5 years basically. And to like come up short after something like that, you're like, well, why should I ever try again? I gave it my best. It didn't work out. Well, this is a clear indication I should have just not given the fuck the I curse.
Strike one. I love it. I love it. Basketball, you get 5 fouls, and you know you're gonna foul somebody just to say it.
What's that?
I said it's kind of like basketball where you get like 5 fouls, and
Right.
might as well just use a few. You
There's
know?
gonna be a couple you're gonna use exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, I was thinking, you know, I could have just not cared at all the whole way, and you know, also got into the same result of getting into University of Florida. I'm not going to name names, but there was many people in our graduating class that just, you know, cheated on all their tests in high school. They didn't do anything after school. They hired people to write their college essays. They just, you know, they did sports practice after school. They did drugs. They partied, and that was it. And I could have done that and achieved the same thing, and that was really discouraging. But I think that was a really defining moment for me because it made me realize there's always going to be failures, even when you try your best. And maybe that's even like the best kind of failure. You know, you tried your absolute best and you failed. Well, you know what? I can't really look back and say, you know, shame on you, Cyrus, for not having done X, Y, Z. I tried my best. I came up short. And I think what I learned from that experience was you can give it your best. You can come up short. That doesn't mean you should just give up. It means you should get up on the horse and try for the same thing or something different or whatever it is you want.
Got it. I love it. I love it. You brought up a really great point when you were talking about like the education aspect of it, about how you said all the cheating that's going on. So can we just give our audience right now like I guess some context into like, you know, how hard you studied, like what was your GPA, like where were you in terms of, you know, class and in high school?
So basically, there's a weighted GPA which took into account the APs and honors classes you took, and that was out of 6.0. And there was an unweighted GPA which everyone's familiar with. That was at a 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
Unweighted, I had a 4.0. Weighted, I had a 5.4 something. I only got an A's, straight A's for all of high school. I never once even got a B plus. You're wondering why I didn't get a 6.0. The number is based off how many APs you get. It's not that 5.4 means I got B's on some of them. It means 6.0 represents if you've taken only APs ever, basically, which is impossible.
I love it.
Basically, I came out ranked ranked number 3 in the class. I was ranked 3 when it all came to an end. And that was only because I took orchestra regular 1 year. Because orchestra was coded as a regular, as an honor class. If orchestra had been coded honors my whole way through, I would have actually been, I think, at least salutatorian. Yeah, at least, if not valedictorian. Doesn't matter. Point is, I was top 3, 5.4 weighted, 4.0. That's where I was. I gave it my best.
Thank you for the context. Straight A's. Yeah. You got straight A's all throughout high school.
Straight A's.
Got it. Now, just so people can understand the people that you were with, you're a very smart guy. So now let's talk about the cheating. Okay. Everyone cheats, right? Like everyone was cheating. Like, let's just be honest.
I wasn't cheating, but okay. I know a lot of people were. I'm not gonna say everybody was cheating. I definitely don't think everybody was cheating, but I do think
a lot of smart people were cheating.
How do you define smart? You're not talking about like the top 20. You're talking about relatively smart people in like honors classes and
top 20. I'm talking about top 20 people in top 20.
No.
You don't think so?
I can tell you without a doubt, top 10. I don't think anybody was cheating. No. if you're talking about your general pack of people in honors and AP courses, yeah, I think a sizable pool were probably cheating. But talking about top 10, top 20, I don't think so now.
Okay, fine. Well, I'm just saying, I think they were cheating. Like people that I talk to, like there's all these, you hear about all these like cheating scandals, and like, I just feel like, I don't know. Anyways, you kind of just killed the flame on that. So thank you for disproving me. I was
No,
trying to.
but there were. I think I think the point is there are a lot of people who cheat. Not everybody. It's not the top of the class. Not at our school, at least. Maybe there are some schools like that. But for us, yeah, there were a lot of people who cheated.
How did you feel about when our school got shot up?
That was really, really sad. It was shocking. Um, yeah, I couldn't believe it. I mean, I was in disbelief. Every time I turned on the TV or I went online, it was Marjorie Stone. My school that I went to every day for 4 years is up on the TV every single day. Everyone's talking about it like some school that exists only because of this shooting, but this is something I dearly know,
Yeah,
So to me, it was shocking. It took me such a long time for it to really set in. I didn't even say anything about it for a couple days, 2, 3 days. It was devastating, honestly. I was really, really sad because I thought back to myself. I was like, I mean, it really just hits home. If I were in high school in when did it happen? 2018.
I don't remember. It was on Valentine's
20
Day.
it was yeah either 2017 20 I think it was 2018. uh and yeah, it was just absolutely, it was when it happened, it was just absolutely devastating. I just if I had gone to school at that time, I mean I could have died, so it just really hit home. It really hit home.
Okay, I like that. What are 3 pieces of life advice you have for the youth?
3 pieces of advice for the youth.
Life advice, not just regular advice. I'm talking about life advice.
Life advice. Well, I mean, one of it is, it's kind of like it's pretty basic, trite saying, just follow your heart, do what you really want to do. If you wind up doing something you don't want to do, you'll just be miserable all the time. So just follow your heart. Don't let people tell you what to do or what you can't do. And just, do what's true to you, and that can change. That's fine too. It can change over time.
Got
But it's important to stay true to yourself. Let's see what else. One thing I would say is, it's just there's so many things you can consume these days, between TV, what you read online, what you see online, what you put into your body. So many intoxicating things in our world,
right.
that are just not good for your soul. And I think one thing you should, try to be mindful about, as much as you can, is what you're consuming, because it does add up. It does take a toll on you. It can eat you from the inside out. Things like hate and anger. It's okay to be angry in certain situations. Anger is just kind of an emotion that tells you something's not okay, but it's not okay to be consumed by these things or by other intoxicating matters. Um, Basically, just watch what you're doing, what you're saying, how you're thinking. All these things kind of add up. It can have a big impact on how you live.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So it was follow your heart, watch what you consume, and then watch your anger, if I'm correct.
No, what I watched, anger is what was a part of the consumption. Um,
What's the third one?
and I didn't get to a third one. I didn't say a third one. I thought you were gonna let me off the hook with two. Um, a third one. Let's see. A third life kind of. Oh, this is more of a. I mean, it's a tip. It's a tip. Travel as much as you can. In my opinion, not everybody may have like a natural inclination for traveling.
Mhm.
But until you travel, you'll never really know. Like I see a lot of sad comments from people like on Reddit and stuff, or like, I've never left my town, or I've never left my state, and why would I? Or like, there's so many great things in the United States. I'm like, okay, yes, there's great things in your town, in your state, and in the United States, but it doesn't mean that should be to the exclusion of other things.
Right, right.
And I think people who travel, build character, learn a lot, understand people's perspectives, and ultimately have a lot of less, this is, back to kind of hate again, have less hate for other people. When you travel, you understand other people, you understand other cultures. So yeah, traveling is a great character builder. I highly recommend it.
Got it. Okay. How about giving us 3 law tips? Mr. Lawyer, why don't you help us out over here? What are some 3 law?
Law tips. Okay. Well, lawyers are generally can be really expensive. I mean, they're not too expensive if you're doing like a basic transactional matter. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of things have been automated, various legal companies that, kind of do automated stuff. You have lawyers who do, slightly more unique, custom work than that. It's not too expensive. But if you're doing anything in like court, for example, it's going to be really expensive. Um, and one big recommendation would be to, avoid litigation to the greatest extent possible. Sometimes uh, sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you lost something really big and the person's just not responding any other way and you have no choice. And, you got to do what you got to do. But I just see so many lawsuits, and I'm talking about civil suits, people suing each other for money, that is.
Yeah.
I just see so many people fighting over petty things that just don't matter or could be resolved in way simpler ways, way faster, quicker ways. So when I watch litigation, unfold with lawyers charging $500 per hour or more, and one simple hearing and the briefing for it could be 15 hours or more, many times more. I just think about all the waste. Um, and there's strategic ways of doing litigation too. Don't get me wrong. You can file a lawsuit, use that as leverage for a settlement and move on. That's fine. A lot of people do that. But these people who get into these endless lawsuits, and then one person sues them, and then they countersue in that lawsuit, and then they file another lawsuit that's related, tangentially related, and then he gets mad and does another tangential lawsuit, and all of a sudden these guys have like a dynasty of lawsuits against each other. And I think it's really unhealthy. And it just goes back to hate and anger and revenge and all these things, and it's just avoid it. That's my first tip. That's not a very that's not like an everyday tip or anything like that, but like that's more for people who wind up getting into business,
Right.
have money disputes with people and stuff, or even like low level disputes, money disputes with people. Just avoid endless litigation. It's not the best way to go. I mean, yeah, the court's free, but the lawyers are not.
Got it.
That's one thing. That was a very 30,000 foot viewpoint on that one.
Emotion.
Next one. What's that?
So you got a lot of emotion with that one.
Yeah, I got a lot of emotion for that one for sure. Because I just watch it unfold before me all the time. I'm just like, what are these people doing?
Yo, do judges like this gossip behind the doors? Like, do they just they just talk poop behind everyone's back at the end? Yeah.
Not everybody's, but some people are doing the right thing. They're just doing what they can or what they have to do, and it's
But
not like everyone's
everyone
single.
gossips.
Yeah, I mean, if you're asking, do the judges and their research attorneys sit down and say XYZ case is ridiculous and the defendant's definitely going to lose, or I can't believe the plaintiff said that, or yeah, of course. Or can you believe what happened on the stand with that witness? Yeah, of course. At the time when it happens in the courtroom, it'll just be like this, no emotion. But afterwards, when it's a private conversation, or even sometimes it's about a lawyer, you'll be like, can you believe XYZ lawyer? Like, he's that guy again. Everybody's different, but yeah, there's definitely talking going on. It's definitely talking going on.
Let's say for the last 2 tips, let's keep it to the public. Something that they can help with. Like, do you do any DUI cases or people getting arrested?
No, I don't do criminal, but something I would just suggest, and this is a simple one. You can get a lot of legal services for free. There's a lot of what we call public interest organizations, as well as law firms that offer what we call pro bono or free work. You might have to qualify a certain income, but basically you can either get free work or you can get what we call low bono, which means not totally free but discounted work from attorneys. Again, public interest organizations or law firms that offer that. Sometimes they're partnered together. Often they're partnered together. Like a public interest organization will, talk to the client and hook them up with the pro bono law firm.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically, if you do need legal services, there is the possibility of getting them for free,
Got it. Okay.
or discounted. That's one thing. I do want to jump into criminal. I mean, I'll give it. I'm just not a criminal expert, but I would say, and this is a really simple one. You may know it already, but if the cops are talking to you, just say the absolute minimum. Don't make them outraged by something like, I know it's hard to say without creating a whole factual scenario, but basically you just keep it to an absolute minimum, because whatever, as the Miranda rights go, whatever you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. So just wait until you can contact an attorney. That might not be until you get into jail and you can put in your first phone call. But there's no need to tell, I mean, especially if you're guilty, there's no need to, tell the cop your story or give some excuse. That might wind up undercutting you later on. So just wait it out until the professionals are on the scene. They'll tell you what you need to do. They've seen it a million times before. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for watching. Before I forget, 88 Real Estate Media is looking for members to join the Oversight Committee to build the best mindfulness school in Orange County. Shoot us a
Build the best what?
mindfulness school.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And shoot us a message if you want to learn more. And other than that, you got any last words for our audience?
Oh, what's that?
You got any last words for our audience?
Just stay healthy and stay safe. Coronavirus is making us stay home a lot, and people are getting sad about that. But I think cherish these moments where you can stay home, because you might not have them in the future. You're going to be back on the roller coaster of life. That's pretty soon. So just stay safe, stay healthy, and just enjoy what you can.
Got it. Thank you very much.
For sure.